Bond adventure of them all.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another of my classic James Bond reviews. Today I'm taking a look at the 1971 film Diamonds Are Forever. The film is directed by Guy Hamilton and we have Sean Connery returning as James Bond. We have Jill St. John as Tiffany Case, Charles Gray as Blofeld. We have Lana Wood, Jimmy Dean, Bruce Cabot, Putter Smith and Bruce Glover. This time round, Bond is getting involved in the diamond smuggling trade. There are some diamonds in South Africa that are kind of being smuggled. Bond is put on the case and soon discovers that his old nemesis Blofeld is at the centre of this plot. Right, what are my thoughts on Diamonds Are Forever? Well, after on Her Majesty's Secret Service that didn't perform as well in the US, even though it was successful everywhere else in the world. You could still deem it a success, really. It still made lots of money. And George Lazenby, as I discussed last time, was asked to come back. He declined, famously declined, so they chucked a lot of money at Sean Connery, $1,250,000, $1.25 million, which was unheard of at the time, to come back for Diamonds Are Forever. Now, this is one of the Bond films that when I was younger, I always had a real affection for. I can't really explain why. There was just, I don't know, something about it. I've always had a soft spot for this one. But I've never watched this one. As I've said before, while I've reviewed the other ones, I've never watched the Bond films in sequence. So I've never really given this film a direct comparison to the other ones that I've watched so recently. And I think it's fair to say that this one, Diamonds Are Forever, struggles to stand up to some of the best in the series, in my opinion. It pales in the shadow of things like, you know, From Russia with Love and Goldfinger, and You Only Live Twice as well, which I quite enjoyed. You could argue that it's, you know, well, I personally think Dr. No is the weakest Bond film of Connery's career. Just because of the pacing of it, and it feels quite awkward, you know, and there's not a great deal of action in it, etc., etc. And I have reviewed that. You can go and watch my review on that one. But beyond that, I think this is probably his second worst. I mean, and I'm not counting Never Say Never Again because I haven't watched that for years. I will be watching that as well at some point. There's just, there's not a lot happens in this, really. I mean, it's odd anyway, because after the events of the last one, with obviously the death of his wife, I think they just kind of ignore on Her Majesty's Secret Service, other than like poking fun at it, really. You know, when he meets M at the beginning and that Diamond guy. They kind of talk about him being on vacation, sort of thing, and that they managed just fine without him. That's clearly a poke at the last film and George Lazenby. And the film starts with him hunting down Blofeld, which would make sense after the events of the last film. But it's not because his wife's been killed or anything like that. It doesn't even mention that. It just feels odd to just ignore what came before. I think it probably would have made more sense and probably given Sean Connery a little bit more to get his teeth stuck into if they'd have given him a little bit more at stake here in regards to the drama from the last film. I think it would have worked a lot better. But hey-ho, we didn't get that. Much of this film is set in the US because of, as I say, the last film didn't do brilliantly in the US, so they wanted to kind of bring US audiences back because that's where the big bucks were, if you like. And it is lovely to see Sean Connery back, but it's also quite striking how much he's aged since the first Bond film, and we're only talking like, well, not even 10 years, really. It's even from You Only Live Twice, 2 or 3 years earlier, he looks like he's aged quite dramatically in between that time, but he still carries off the Bond role absolutely brilliantly. And there are some great moments here. I mean, I think by this time we're all getting a little bit tired of Blofeld. And the fact that it was a different actor playing him every time was a little bit odd, I suppose. I quite like the two killers, the two homosexual guys that just wander around killing people. And when you actually analyse who they're killing and why they're killing them, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if they're stealing all these diamonds that are being smuggled and then killing the people who's smuggling it for them, how are they going to smuggle more? Because they're just killing everybody that's doing that work for them. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But I always quite like them. And it didn't twig with me at all when I was young that these were homosexual killers. I had no idea what that meant when I was a young lad, obviously. But watching it now, obviously with more mature eyes, you just kind of like, yeah, that's pretty cool the way they do that in the film. Acknowledging that. Jill St. John was absolutely gorgeous as Tiffany Case. She's absolutely beautiful to look at, and I do believe that her and Sean Connery apparently were dating while they were filming this. I think that's true anyway, but correct me if I'm wrong if anybody knows differently. I mean, beautiful woman, but not given a great deal to do in regards to being a Bond girl. Again, we've got a little bit of a plot with something in space, which we've just kind of had in You Only Live Twice. And the ending feels rushed to me in this one. And the fact that it's set on an oil rig, it feels like it's quite restricted, and Bond doesn't get a lot to do at the ending, other than playing Demolition Derby with Blofeld in that one-man sub that he's flinging about on the crane sort of thing. So it's a bit of an odd one, this, because there are some good moments in it. I mean, everybody hates that sheriff in this one, but I didn't mind him, you know what I mean? I thought it was quite funny, and I was quite... Forget Me, that's a different film. That's Live and Let Die, which is the next one, isn't it? Forget Me completely. It's only because I've watched Live and Let Die as well before I filmed the review for this one. So there is no sheriff in this one. But there's so many things in this that just don't kind of tie in. I mean, you've got the whole bit with him. It might look cool with him in the moon buggy, crashing about and driving off, and you're just kind of thinking, well, what was the point of that? Why is that moon buggy there? Are they filming a fake moon landing? What are they doing? So there's lots of questions with this one, even though, as I've said, there are some fun moments you get, and there's mistakes in this one as well, because you see him with the car, the classic mistake where he tilts the car, and then when it comes out the other side, it's the other way round. So it feels a little bit sloppy, and I think the effects budget was affected a little bit because of Sean Connery's huge salary, so I think some of the effects, didn't feel as expensive and flash as they were in the other films. So this wasn't really, I think, a high point for Connery to go out on, even though it's always brilliant seeing him as James Bond. And he does have his moments in this film, obviously. But it's an odd one, because it feels like there's loads of different sequences that happen in this, but they don't seem to flow or tie together. And it feels like they're stretching a little bit for the plot here. It just seems a little bit silly in regards to the diamonds and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's definitely still watchable, and I still have that little bit of nostalgia for it, but obviously, it definitely has its weaknesses as well. So let me know in the comments, guys, what your thoughts are on Diamonds Are Forever, and I will be back, and I will be talking about that sheriff with Live and Let Die on my next review, as the Roger Moore era begins. So I'm looking forward to that, guys. Speak soon.